Hello, my name is Joni Soames, and I'm a retired emergency room nurse, and I'm here today with...
Tom Hooper, and I'm a Deputy Sheriff for Dakota County.
And we're here representing the Dakota County Towards Zero Death Coalition, whose mission is to reduce the number of fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. Our coalition consists of, and I don't want to miss anybody, consists of law enforcement, emergency nurses, EMS, engineers, educators, state and local officials. Our goals today are to learn 4 factors that affect your ability to drive safely.
And also we're going to review 7 things that anybody or everybody should do before they drive in order to drive safely.
So, on the positive side, some of the things we know about our older drivers is that they have better health, they have more driving experience, they drive less, and they self-regulate more.
But age alone does not determine if a person's ability to drive safely, because all of us age differently. There are safe and unsafe drivers at every age. National research suggests that crash rates for older drivers are actually decreasing due to better health, vehicles that have helpful technologies, more driving experience, and safer roadways. As people get older, their driving schedules change due to retirement, different activities, and fewer required trips.
However, one of the things we do know is that, based on the data, even though the crash numbers are going down, in most of the population, our older driver crash numbers and fatality numbers are going up. Even though our drivers over the age of 65 only account for about 20% of our population, the reality is they account for more than 25% of the crashes and fatalities, and they account for more than 43% of the injuries that are occurring. Now, one of the reasons maybe is simply because as we age, we've become a little bit more frail, and we're injured and we die as a result of these injuries. And even though we're using our safety devices, we still are finding older drivers end up having a lot more difficulties as part of crashes and the fatalities. So, Tom, I think you have the next slide.
I have a question for you. Which of these following would you think are considered good driving tips for older drivers? Would it be practice stretching exercises? Or asking if medications could affect your driving? Drinking while driving, or drinking or eating while driving? Which do you think is the correct answer?
Well, you know what? They all affect driving. The reality of it is as we age, our physical strength and flexibility becomes less. We often have trouble with medications that can affect our alertness, and we don't have as quick of reflexes as we need to. Our ability to think is not as clear, and we all know that if you're using one hand to drink or drive, you're probably distracted. So I think they're all the correct answers.
So we mentioned that we're going to talk about 4 things that affect your ability to drive. And those 4 things are physical changes, cognitive changes, medical conditions, and medication.
Okay, I think each of these are different for each one of us, so I think it's probably a good idea to look at each one individually.
Okay.
So I'm going to start out with some of the physical changes that we see as we age. Each of us, as we age a little bit, it's normal to develop some physical changes, especially a decrease in our strength and our flexibility. And an example I would use is I used to could carry 40 pounds of salt downstairs to the water softener, not so much anymore, but that's pretty normal.
Yep. Also, as we age, a lot of times the ability to feel our extremities, a lot of people get fluid buildup in their legs, so they don't feel their toes or their feet as well, or their fingers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Our reflexes get slower. To take the information in and then to process it through all of the stuff that's going on, it's going to take a little bit longer to process it and then to respond to whatever that information is. So sights and sounds, and then just to be able to get our foot on the gas or the brake pedal are things that will change with aging.
And also physically, all of us lose some of our vision. And it's not just the prescription that changes in our vision. It also is a lot harder to drive at night sometimes when you... And I remember one time I tried driving with my cheater glasses at night, and that didn't work out very well.
I'll bet not, because you have to look look too far away. And we can make a joke about how our hearing gets lost, but in reality, it does. And warning signs for us, people honking their horn or sirens, we may not hear them and be able to react to the things that need to happen. So those are some things that are normal changes to think about.
Joni, can you tell us the next thing, cognitive changes? What do we mean by that?
You bet. So cognitive changes is that essentially affect how we process the information we go. So how do we think, how do we react? How do we put that information together? So our sights, the sounds that are going on, thinking about what does this all mean and how do we react to it. Sorting out distractions would be another thing to think about with this. These signs are a perfect example of how you can suddenly become very overloaded with all of the information coming at you. And I often use as an example when I drive downtown St. Paul, I have to turn my radio down in order to figure out what the heck is going on. Additionally, what will often happen is that because of those slower reflexes, that's all part of the cognitive component related to that. So what does that mean? You see all of these signs, and how quickly can you figure out where you are, where you're going? Do you get lost very easily? And sometimes we're finding out that that happens. We may not respond to those visual clues that tell us we're getting into an unsafe situation, and we may not be able to brake quickly enough to make sure that we're safe and make everyone else safe.
Medical conditions also can affect our driving. Now, I have to ask Nurse Joni that maybe you could go through some of those medical conditions.
Well, there's a nice long list on the slide that we have here, and each one of them can cause some effect related to our driving. If you think about stroke, there may be weakness on an arm, maybe numbness on an arm or a leg that makes it so that you can't drive as well. Diabetes is another one that causes those neuropathies where you can't feel your fingers or your toes the way you're supposed to be. Your arthritis may make it painful to grip the wheel or to stop the brake, things like that. Trouble moving is part of that arthritis type of a thing. Trouble thinking can go along with the Parkinson's or the Alzheimer's, and just generalized weakness can come from heart and lung diseases, as well as we mentioned earlier, that loss of vision with like glaucoma and things like that. So a lot of these disease processes will ultimately affect your ability to have sensory input and then respond to it, so it makes you a little less safe when you're out there driving, and keeps you from reacting in a quick enough manner.
I see. Well, the fourth condition is medications. And medications, of course, change the way that we are. And there are side effects with some medications that can make you drowsy, they can make you dizzy. It might blur your vision for sometimes, and also your muscles tend to relax. So you got to be really careful when you take medications and know that you're safe to drive.
You're absolutely right, Tom. And I think one of the things to think about is with medications is to remember to check with your provider or your doctor, or even your pharmacist can give you some really good information related to how safe it is to drive with those medications. And one of the things that I would even think about doing is if the medication bottle says, "Do not take while driving, may cause drowsiness," you may want to ask your doctor, is there an alternative medication that I could take for whatever the condition is without ultimately making you an unsafe driver? So, we've just reviewed 4 things very quickly as far as what can affect your driving: the physical changes, the cognitive changes, the medical changes is the medication. So let's talk a little bit, Tom, about things that you can do to make yourself safer.
Right, there are 7 things that we've got down that actually, at any age, we could all benefit from taking the time to do these things before you drive. And the first thing is plan ahead. Know your route. In today's world, we've got phones and we can plug in the address on the phone and actually start driving, and Siri will tell you, or somebody will tell you where to go, when to turn, how long you've got before you can turn. Always make sure that you check your fluids and your tires. Know that your car is going to work well. Even a big thing that I really suggest is, especially in the wintertime, walk around your car. Know that there's nothing in the way. There might be a small animal or something that's under your car, or maybe there's an obstruction behind you that you didn't see or you might not see when you drive. I tend to back up into my garbage cans all the time.
That's not good.
Right. Maybe notify the people that you're going to visit. Let them know that you're leaving now and when you're planning to get there. And make sure that you always remember to get your cell phone. That's the biggest thing we see that has changed for officers when we go to crashes. We always have those snowy days. It's so nice to see people that are stranded if they've got a phone and we know that they've got help on the way too.
As long as they're not talking on the phone while they're driving, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
A second thing to think about is ask yourself, is it safe to drive right now? What's your frame of mind? Are you angry about what's going on? Are you too drowsy? Have you been taking some medications that might make you an unsafe driver? What are the weather conditions? I look at this slide and I think, this is what it looks like when I'm trying to drive in that foggy, misty, and it's like, maybe I shouldn't be on the road right now because it's like, I really can't tell what's going on. So one of the things you might want to think about doing is planning ahead. Figuring out number one, is it safe because of my physical condition, and B, should I be driving early enough so I'm not driving at dusk or I'm not driving in bad weather? Can I plan my route well enough to avoid a part of the road that I don't like? There's some roads just are not good roads to be on, so can I go a different direction rather than going on that scary road? So that's some things to think about.
Next we have is exercise. Exercise your driving muscles. For a lot of older people, you're going to be driving and you might be driving a long time and you're in that sedentary position. So it's important, maybe do some stretches, do some squats, get your body ready to know that you're going to be sitting for a while.
Exactly. And one of the things we're working on is to actually come up with a set of exercises to help you become a little bit stronger and a little bit more flexible. And we will give you the website later on where you'll be able to find them. There's also going to be a sheet of exercises that you can practice so you do strengthen your driving muscles and your flexibility muscles. Those are a good way to make you much safer.
And on those long drives, maybe you want to pull over.
Oh, yeah. Take a walk around the car.
Sure.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Next is try to limit the distractions. There's so much going on today. You really need to pay attention. I always tell my daughters, you're pushing about 4,000 pounds around with your foot, so you really need to be careful what you're doing. So it's important not to eat or drink while you're driving. Don't fiddle with all the controls. The new cars have lots of neat things, and
You know
they
what
talk.
mine does? Mine says to me, hey, time for a break.
Yeah. So that can be very distracting.
It is, yeah.
And we know you can't use your phone while you're driving. You can use a speaker device, and there are things that with Bluetooth and things that make that possible. But you don't want to have that phone up in your hand.
Exactly.
And don't play cards while you're driving, right?
I've never played cards when I've been driving that I'm aware of. Another thing to think about is to actually make sure you fit in your vehicle. So do things like adjust your steering wheel so that you're safe enough away. Make sure that your mirrors give you a good view around the vehicle. Make sure your car seat or your seatbelt actually comes across your chest and your lower abdomen. We'll show you a picture in a little bit, but make sure you're fit in your vehicle. And a really good class to do to learn this is called CarFit. They will help you to fit in your vehicle. But another thing to think about is take a safe driving class. And they're offered by a lot of agencies, including AAA, AARP, the Minnesota Safety Council. And a lot of people take these simply because they think it's going to decrease their insurance. But the reality of it is they're out there trying to make you a safer driver. And I do need to put the caveat in here that this session does not decrease your insurance. It's not one of those classes. So we highly recommend signing up for one of those because it's a really good thing to do.
Joni mentioned your seatbelt. So many people, it seems, still don't want to wear their seatbelt or they find it uncomfortable. And our diagram shows the proper way to hold, to wear your seatbelt. And even on the B-pillar of your cars, you can adjust the height to have it, in a safe way. But, the way, some older people still like to put it under their armpit and all that's very dangerous,
It really is.
So
Yeah.
be careful about that.
You definitely want it down far enough though so you don't cut off your head in
Yeah,
the process. One of the other things, and we've kind of mentioned this before and we're going to mention again, is ask yourself about are you taking any medications that can affect your level of alertness? Have you been drinking any alcohol in the process of doing that? And one of the things that I also like to remind people is, are you using any patches? That can help with your medication and may also help with your pain and may also make you drowsy. So you really need to know, is your driving being affected by any of these things? So kind of really, as you're looking at this, think about those 7 things we've just kind of talked about. What can you do to make yourself safer? And I think you've got the first one, don't you?
Part of it is plan ahead.
Think, is it safe to drive right now?
exercise your driving muscles,
Limit your distractions.
correctly adjust your steering wheel and seats, mirrors.
Yeah, make sure that your seatbelt is on correctly. And then ask yourself, am I taking any medications or drinking any alcohol? That's going to affect my safe driving ability. So Tom, question for you. What was the most commonly reported contributing factor in crashes involving drivers aged 65 to 79? Which one of these things?
Actually, the correct answer, I know, is failure to yield right away.
Oh.
You know, so many accidents in the past involve people that failed to yield the right of way, meaning they were on a roadway and they wanted to get off and turn, and they would turn in front of oncoming traffic. Or at T-intersections where you're at a stop sign and you were ready to enter the highway, people would enter too fast or too slow and not able to keep up. So, you know, there's a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of distractions on the road, there's signs and everything else, but it's important to remember when you're entering traffic, you have to yield to the traffic that's already moving. You know, there's new road designs now actually to try to prevent and actually have prevented injuries with J-turns on highways and roundabouts. And roundabouts are still confusing for a lot of people, but it's important just to remember the short answer with them is when you come to a roundabout, it's kind of like jumping on a carousel. You have to wait and pause for the traffic that's coming around at you. And then after they pass and you safely get in the roundabout, then you have the right of way and you should continue all the way through it. And if you miss your exit as you're going, just go around again until you get to the right place.
And get really dizzy, huh?
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed in your picture there was you had a picture of road construction. And as I was having a meeting with one of the engineers from Dakota County, they said one of the things they really worry about is our older driver entering road constructions, because often that's distracting, it's unfamiliar, it's that road you want to avoid if possible, or be very aware that this is an unsafe condition. So kind of paying attention in road construction and take a little bit extra caution as you go in. So Tom, you know what? We've kind of reviewed a lot of things so far today. The 4 factors that influence your ability to drive safely: physical problems, cognitive issues. We talked about medications, and we talked about medical conditions that may affect driving.
And we looked over the 7 things to do before you drive, like plan ahead, know where you're going, exercise, things like that.
So just some final thoughts, I think, whereas what we're to the point of right now. We do know that aging is normal. Everyone does age. Some of us age a little bit better than others. Some of us age a little bit less well than others.
But it's important, maybe take a driving course, you know, it wouldn't hurt to brush up on our skills.
Absolutely, I think so. The other thing is recognize if you're with an unsafe driver. Some things to think about is maybe don't get in the car with them and drive with them. Maybe talk with their family and let them know that they maybe are of concern to you. Talk to them and say, you know, should you be driving or not? Maybe offer to drive them around yourself. And you can certainly refer them to professional help, including it's not wrong to ask if maybe they be retested by the Department of Vehicular Services. And they may send them to the physician and have them evaluated even by a driving rehab specialist. But sometimes it's just that little red flag to let them know that maybe something should happen. But what's the really important thing to consider, Tom?
Well, we know driving is important for everybody, but it's when it's maybe not time to drive anymore, there are other alternatives to driving. You know, Metro Mobility in Dakota County is all over the place. We've still got MTC buses. Mm-hmm. The light rail is becoming more and more available for everybody. There's Uber and Lyft. Yeah. Can take you places right to where you want to go yourself. So there are other ways to get around and be active still.
Yeah, lots of good alternatives. So to kind of, as we come to a close here, we just want to let you know that we're working on additional resources. In addition to this video, we're going to try to get some information about how to drive safely, exercises related to safety, just resources related to talking to someone about should they be driving or not. And what we're going to do is we're going to have them posted on the Minnesota Towards Zero Death website, which is www.minnesotatzd.org/resources, older drivers, and you can access a variety of different information that may be useful for you as well. Additionally, you can give me a call. I volunteer to, the old volunteer person, to be the touch point. And my email address is on the website, or on the slide right here, somswasblackhole@gmail.com. So Tom, I want to thank you for spending the morning with me as we put this together. I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers to take the time to view our video and think about how can you be a safe driver out there, because we want to keep you all safe. Anything from you?
I just want everybody to be safe too. Thanks.
Hey, thank you.